Friends, fans, and fine Patreons. Come on down to the exclusive. I didn't think this through. Now I'm stumbling over it. But hey, it's a private Patreon thing. You're paying for bloopers, right? That's what Patreon's all about, isn't it? It's bloopers. Hi, hello, hello. How's it going? What up? Dropped frames 0. Look like the internet's okay for now. Looks like it's okay for now on the old internets. Find the Metacharisma check, says Wraith. Thank God it's not at disgusting o'clock. 9 o'clock in the morning, Wraith, is not disgusting o'clock. That's a normal time for things. And since they normally go like 2 hours or so, it's like 9 till 11 a.m. That's not disgusting o'clock in the morning. Like 5 in the morning is disgusting. 9 till 11 is perfectly normal. How's everybody doing? I'm feeling claustrophobic. I need to rearrange where my computers are because they're all up in my grill. They're all up in my grill. Get out of it. Oh, but it is 9 a.m. and it's disgusting. I mean, that's fair, I suppose. Hester, holy moly, compensating for discount at Redbubble. Compensating for discount? What do you mean? Thank you very much, Hester. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Has anybody bought merch and is enjoying it so far? I guess it hasn't arrived yet, has it? Because it would have only been. You would have had 9 days. There's a chance that if you bought it on my birthday when I announced it, that something might have arrived. I don't know what the shipping's like. I need to move my microphone out of the way of my chat so that I can actually see you guys. 6 a.m., 7 a.m., still outrageous. Oh, yeah, 6 and 7 are still outrageous o'clock in the morning. Bagel has hers. Awesome. Oh, I need to buy Bagel some of the merch as a thank you for designing the merch. I haven't done that yet. Need to get on with it. Need to get on it. Oh shit, what have I done? Oops. Oops, I lost my chat behind the thing. Here it is. Hello. Have a meeting in 25 minutes, barely functioning. Bleh. What do you do to function? Get some coffee in your veins? Who is here? I might go get my jumper on. It's a little bit cold. I'm gonna do that rather than sit here and struggle and whatever. I'm gonna head you to a. I don't know if I ever set up the be right back screen. I did. Look at that. I'm just gonna get my jumper. I'll be back in like a minute. I'm back. Thankfully, I had the foresight to pack a jumper into my bag, my day bag, when I came back to the studio today. It's been a little bit chilly in Perth. Perth is normally a little warmer, apparently, but while I've been here, it's been a little bit stormy. Check out this cool merch. What? Merchandise? My dad is texting me photos of birds. The nagging is okay. When buying at Redbubble, you get a discount sometimes, meaning that your share is good as well, Rob. Why do you get the discount? But thank you very much, Hester. That's very kind of you to think about me and my share. There's a 20% sale on at Redbubble at the moment, and that will cut my share by 20%. I didn't know that. I don't like that. But hey, That's fine. Redbubble's relatively expensive, so probably works out better for you guys. Still very amused by Redbubble proposing shower curtains. It's insane. It isn't so. There's two different, very very different approaches to merchandise with Stream Elements and Redbubble. Stream Elements is if you want an item on the store, you have to select that item and then add your thing to it and do all of the stuff and then publish it separately. So like if I so Stream Elements takes a long time because I've got three different designs. Whether I want it large like this or like small like a pocket square, I have to do those in two different ways. Whether I want it on a t-shirt, a unisex t-shirt, a v-neck t-shirt, a long sleeve t-shirt, whether I want it on the front or the back of those t-shirts, whether I want it on a hoodie, a zip-up hoodie, a cropped hoodie, whether I want it on mugs, stickers, blankets, I have to add everything individually onto Stream Elements, and it gets tedious and boring. And then I have to do all of that with all three of my different designs in both large and small on each of those different things. Then you go to Redbubble and you go upload a design, and you click the design, and then Redbubble goes, "Ding," it's on it's on all clothing, all it's on mugs, it's on bottles, it's on keepsake bottles, it's on travel mugs, it's on mouse pads and desk mats, and it's on dog mats and cat mats. I think are relatively recently additions to Stream Elements. It's on bloody shower curtains and towels and also it just like adds it to everything, but it doesn't do a very good job of doing those things. So you have to then go through all of those things and resize it so that it actually fits on the thing. Yes. Anyway, someday Stream Elements is going to be actually up to date with the world and go, oh, we should be doing it like all these other merch stores are doing. Um, and also at the same time, hopefully, Redbubble is going to be like, oh, we need a better algorithm for deciding how big things actually need to be so that people have less to tweak. But yes, Fancy, I will be adding more stuff to Stream Elements. I will be adding mugs and stickers to Stream Elements because it's cheaper over there and they do better mugs at Stream Elements than they do at Redbubble, I've found. Because with Redbubble, you upload your design and you can only put one design on it. You can choose the left side of the mug, the middle of the mug, or the right side of the mug. And that's it. You can choose to tile it, but it doesn't give you options for like how far apart the tilings should have to be. It just tiles it, which for the designs of that I've got, when I tried to tile it on the Redbubble mugs, it gave it like it was like 2.5 times across and like 1.5 times high, and so you'd have these other like sections of the design just cut off halfway through the mug. So that's obviously not going to work. So just terrible options really at the Redbubble mugs. Um, until I had time to stick them on Stream Elements, I just went with I'll just stick them so that a right-handed person would be drinking the mug with the logo facing out. Threadless is a mix of those two processes. Threadless. That's why I love InPrint. If you choose to add on onto their sales or not, and when they do site-wide sales, it comes from their end. It's good. Whenever I hear merchandise, I think Spaceballs. Why? Merchandise? I don't remember the Spaceballs reference. Nom nom nom. What's up, Jimmy? That bookcase behind Rob is beautiful. It is. It's part of the Winter's Tales set. The whole thing is beautiful. And don't tell anybody. I may have added a Robert Hartley business card somewhere to the Winter's Tales set. I want to see if they discover it someday. Don't tell. It'll spoil the surprise. Nom, nom, nom. In my defense, I'm at a skate rink and I'm sitting still. You are cold because you're sitting still. It's an ice skating rink. Yeah, that'll probably do it. Right. Are you on the ice? Are you sitting down on the ice in the middle of it? I totally leaned in when you did drop. Like, that's how I missed it. Had three, so they get complacent when they find one of them. Yeah. And then fearful when they find the second one. Hmm. What's everybody snacking on today? I've got Doritos Thai sweet chili. Mm. Easter eggs, yum. Good choice. Is coffee counted as a snack? I mean, yeah, I think many people do. I've heard lots of people be like, "Oh, I'm not really hungry. I had a coffee," and I'm like, as someone who doesn't drink coffee, is that how that works? Does it like fill you up like food? I'm gone. No more chips. Too sick to eat much. I'm feeling pretty sick at the moment as well. I think I've caught a cold while I've been in Perth, which sucks. Got a sore throat and a sniffly nose. Have some grapes, yum. Probably it'd be warm if I was sitting on the ice. Oh, weird. You are particularly strange on how little you feel the cold. Finally finished this bird I've been drawing for ages. It is green and nice. What kind of a bird is it? Mind you, not sure why I'm asking. I won't know. I won't know. You'll say it's like a green-throated warbler or something, and I'll be like, sure, okay. Perfect time to shake a flight back there and share it with everyone. I know, right? Sharing is caring. A problem shared is a problem halved. That's what they say. That's what led to COVID. A male eclectus parrot. I actually do know eclectus parrots. We had them at the Auckland Zoo. It's got a nasty cold, haven't had the sore throat. It's good. I made gochujang nachos. They is spicy. Gochujang is the spice that they put on Korean squid, isn't it? It may sound like I know what I'm talking about. That's one of those, what are they, Bader-Meinhof? Is that what it's called? Bader-Meinhof phenomenon? You hear about something like, and then you hear about it again immediately. I've not heard of gochujang before last night when I was out for dinner with the Woottenford guys, and on the menu was Korean squid with gochujang sauce or something, and something was made a point. They made a point of it, and I see it again. Mm. It's now 8 degrees C. Oof, Jesus, that's cold, man. That's cold. Anything below 10 is cold. Anyway, so what do you guys want to talk about? And talk about my trip to Perth. I want to talk about the D&D movie. I want to talk about you're from England. Yeah, but I've lived in New Zealand for it's coming up 16 years. 16 years. Oh, interesting. When will I pass more time in New Zealand than out of New Zealand? Obviously, when I'm 18, and I've been here 18 years. I moved when I was 18 and a bit. 18 and May, June, July, August, September, 5 months. 18 and 5 months. So when I've been here 18 and 5 months, then I've been in New Zealand longer than I was not in New Zealand. 18 and 5 months, 18 and 10 months, that's February. I'll be 36 and 10 months, 36 February, so there'll be 2026. February 2026. I will have been in New Zealand for longer than I was not in New Zealand. I should mark the occasion. Gochujang is a Korean sauce, damn spicy, so I didn't go near it. Yeah, not one for very spicy stuffs. 4 degrees C in the mountains. Whew. I mean, that's fine if you're built for it. Like if your body's built for it, if your clothes are good for it, if you're ready for it. I like snow. I like snowy winter weather, like for snowboarding holidays and things. When you're in like a winter chalet, like I went to Banff in 2012 for my brother's wedding. And it was gorgeous and pristine and beautiful, and we were having a right old time, like snowboarding and things. Very pretty because you know you're going into it, so you've got your ski jackets, you've got like, your warm clothes. But like, if you're just roundabout everyday life at home and you're going about your daily business and it drops to 4 degrees, Jesus, cold, just becomes a nuisance to have to get all dressed up with 4 layers every time you go in anywhere. 10 degrees is bearable. Anything under 10 is cold. 20 is nice. Anywhere in the mid-teens is getting chilly. Just need a jacket. Is it Billy Connolly that says there's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing? Says you can't. Can I tell a Scotsman that rain is bad weather? They'll kill themselves. 20 is yuck. 15 is fine. 20 is not that hot. Anyway, we're not talking about the weather. Bloody hell. Not talking about the bloody weather. Talk about something exciting. Went to see the D&D movie after your birthday stream. Nice. Was quite good. What did you think of it, Fancy? Would you got any feedback about it? Have you all seen the D&D movie? Anybody not seen it and wants to? Should we avoid spoilers if we start talking about it? It has been out a while now. It's been out a month. Space has been bugging me to go visit, so we're looking at Winter and Queenstown for a week or two. Do day trips and make him go regret inviting me. Really likes the bad lady's dress. Oh yeah. That was cool. With the stuff around the low over the shoulders. After she takes her hood down and kind of turns into a different color. It's good stuff. Special effects were awesome. Yeah, it was good. The chubby dragon, yeah, Thembachord. Thembachord. Who's a real character in D&D apparently. He was in some module or something in fourth edition or something. I don't know. But he's a character. He's an existing character in D&D, and he's meant to be under the town of Baldur's Gate or somewhere, not where he is in the movie, and that's why they put in the line about like he's found a new lair. Why did he eat the old one? It was very good. Pretty okay, I say. You weren't blown away, Hester? It's just okay, just average. The plot was very D&D. Yes, it was very D&D. I really liked it. You haven't seen it, Wraith, but I don't care about spoilers. I'll get it on DVD. Yeah, it was. You get it on DVD. I'm not sure that they'll release it on DVD. You freaking old woman. You know that technology is obsolete, right? I knew the end from like a third of the way in. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, very D&D. Stupid cold, making me all sniffly and coughy. Ugh. Um, D&D movie, really enjoyed it. Loved um all of the little jokes and stuff because I felt like they were pitched just right and didn't detract and stuff. Still your face, you don't hear us complain. I hear you complain all the time. What are you even talking about? Sniffle, sniffle, sniffles. I'd preferred seeing it in original version. French version was good with some voices, but some translations weren't great. Yeah, I suppose you don't have the option in France, do you? They just only show it in the French versions. Of the Paladin, yeah, Paladin was a good character. I think he was a good sort of representation of that player, a player who can be like, I'm lawful good, therefore I'm lawful good, and that's it. Um, Let me talk about my trip so far, huh? Let's tell you about some of the cool things I've been doing in Perth. Y'all seen the dice box? I think I left it in my bag. Yeah, I think it might be in my bag. The Paladin was great, yeah. When you sent me that dice box, by the way, that was the deal, right? No, no, that wasn't the deal. No, you don't get the dice box. It's my dice box. Um, the Wooten Forge thing was really fun. I don't know if you any of you caught the short rest with them, but that was really good. Good fun chatting to them, and then I went out for dinner with them last night as well. Um, good to get to know them. The dice box was really nice, and I wasn't expecting the coin or the coin box either. They went and got me a coin and a coin box, and let me have it. So that's very kind of them. The process of making the dice box is really cool, and I think the video is going to come out really well. I've got a bunch of footage. Like when I was doing socials for them, I actually went to Wooten Forge on the 20th of April, and then it took me until one, two, three, four. It took me until the 24th of April to like get around to actually doing the socials for them, and then the 25th of April before I actually posted the socials, because I went through. I like connected it all. I started doing it on my phone, and I was like, this is not working. And so I had to plug my phone into my computer and connect all of the like transfer all of the files across and stuff. And then I grabbed each of the files and like watched them to clip off anything that was not meant. Because a couple of the times I was like taking footage of something and be like, "Oh, cool, what's this thing? Oh, it's a dice box or whatever." And then I'd open it up and there was like a coin in there, and an Aaron would have to be like, "Oh, actually, coin's not meant to be shown yet. We're not showing off that coin because it's a prototype or because it's a custom job for a private individual or whatever, and so we shouldn't be broadcasting it and things." So for whatever reason, like a couple of times, I'd have to be like, "Oops," and I'll take that take again. Um, and so obviously for putting things up on socials, I had to go through all of that and make sure that I was editing off those bits and making sure I wasn't showing things I wasn't meant to and things. Um, and then I decided like and then even after doing that and deleting all the things that were like false takes, I was like, I've still got about 40 or 50 video clips, and I'm not putting all of that up on Instagram. That's crazy. So that's when I decided, like, you know what, I'm gonna make this a YouTube video properly with all of the extra footage. I made sure while I was there to get a bunch of well, not while I was there, I went back to get a bunch of B-roll. Um, which is like stuff that I can cut into like between my takes and stuff to try and make it a little bit look a little bit more professional. I got a really nice B-roll of while the guy was sanding with the orbital sander. He'd created a downdraft table, like a big, kind of like an air hockey table, but with the vacuum instead of a blowing. So it's sucking all the particles as he's sanding, and it sucks it up into like a massive bag of the sawdust, and the sawdust is spinning around in the in the fan, and so that made for some really cool like B-roll footage to just watch this huge bag of sawdust and things. Yeah, so it was fun. I had fun filming and thinking through like how this idea is going to work as a YouTube video, showing off the whole process from start to finish of how we've now got a cool dice box for Apis. Bite me, I like DVDs. When the apocalypse happens and an EMP goes off, I'm not going to lose my digital data. You, I mean, we'll, we'll see. And with regards to the idea in DVDs for movies and series, I really enjoy. You do you. Good luck getting them fixed when your DVD player breaks. Stuff that I really, really want to keep, I get on physical media because digital purchases can always be taken away. Sure. Has Doug enjoyed having you there to troll in person? Yes, very much so. Yeah. I went and ran a game with Dag 2 times for his community stuff. I've been really bad with socials since I've been here because I've been doing a lot of fun things, and I'm also bad with socials anyway. But I'm pretty sure I recorded myself doing a bunch of DAG based community D&D thing, and didn't actually end up posting them to Instagram because I forgot to do so. The wood you chose for the Apex box is so beautiful. Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? It's really contrasting. Blackheart Sassafras. It even sounds like a D&D character though. I'm Blackheart Sassafras, or a D&D villain. The Blackheart. Do not cross Blackheart Sassafras. Ash says hi, by the way, can't participate today. I was too sleepy. No worries. Do it now? Do what now? Oh, the socials for Dag thing? Yeah, let me see if I can even find them. Nah, go ask do it now. I'm tired. Um, what else? Oh yeah, so about the Dag thing, that was fun. So I'll talk about that. Dag works for anyone who doesn't know. Dead Aussie Gamer, a friend of mine. He works for the government. Technically speaking, he's a government employee, uh, dungeon master. Oh, you tried. You tried. I opened my phone and went no. So they can't say I didn't try. So Dag is a government employed dungeon master, which is awesome. He works for a community youth center for kids. That's what youth center means, Rob. Fucking hell. He plays D&D with them multiple times a day, especially multiple times a week. Sorry, especially during school holidays and stuff, which it was because when I arrived it was Easter, so the Easter holidays were on. So I went along a couple of times to help Dag with his work. He had one kid there, one fella in his teens, who was a huge fan of Viva la Dit League and me apparently, and so he didn't tell him I was coming and just fucking dropped it on it, which is very cruel but very trollish and very on theme. Um, I keep putting the iPad on my ear to hear better, but I'm wearing headphones. And so it's intelligent, I swear. Jesus Christ, right? Let me turn myself up. Let me move my microphone closer and then turn myself up a little. Because I am feeling pretty pale and quiet today. So if I go there and I click sound settings and I go down to input microphone, input volume's already at 100%, so can't turn it up any further. On OBS, it's already at 100% as well. Can't turn it up any further, so I'll just move it a little closer. Was the kid just like, OMG? The kid was like, and then just rose up for half of the day because it's a full day job that Dag does. It's like a 9 to 5 job. So I arrived in the morning like 8 o'clock or something. About 8 o'clock I think I was there. Um, and Dag was like, all right, here's the situation. Showed me around the building and everything. Here's the room where we're going to be DMing in today. Um, let's go get some breakfast. And then he walked across the car park to the McDonald's so that he could grab himself a coffee and a whatever. And the kid was in there, and I say kid, he was probably like in 15 or somewhere. Um, and he walked into this Macca's place, and was like, oh, it's Jacob, let's call him. I don't remember his name. Oh, Jacob, how's it going? Here's Robert Harley. He's going to be DMing with us today. And the kid was like, and the poor kid was like in his like safe space he was obviously just like preparing for his day, getting his shit together. He was sitting down having his McDonald's breakfast or whatever, and he had his headphones on, listening to music or podcasts or whatever he was doing. He was just in his own little world, preparing to go and play some D&D for a day with his friends. Then he looks up and sees Dag and Robert Hartley GM, poor guy. And so he was just like, and then he didn't say anything at all. Dag's like, "You doing all right?" And he was like, and then Dad was like, "All right, see you in there," and then just walked out with me, and then told me afterwards. He was like, "That's the kid I was telling you about. That's a big fan of you in Viva." I was like, "You cheeky bastard, cheeky bastard." Um, so we walked. Yeah, poor kid. I know, right? So we walked in. We walked into the place where we were going to be doing, and Dag shows me this like this not three dimensional this interactive whiteboard, which was really cool. It's like a projector whiteboard, excuse me, and he can project his maps onto it, and he can click certain things, and it's like D&D integrated. So he just plugs in his files or something in a USB stick, or plugs it to a computer or something, and then he can go into folders and be like, folders, minis, this, and he can select a random mini with a token on it or whatever, and just drop it on this huge board, and then you can just click it and drag it as if it's like a vertical D&D game, essentially a vertical D&D table, just moving the minis around as minis, just on this projector screen instead. And then you can click down at the bottom. There's a big symbol of like a marker, and you can choose your colors and stuff. And then you can write on it with your finger. And then one of the cool features is he writes on it with his finger, and then if you do that motion, it just wipes it off. So it's like it's actually wiping a whiteboard and stuff. So yeah, very fun, very fun. I was like, damn, this that's some good that's some good technology. But Dag was like, yeah, this is the room I'm normally in, but unfortunately somebody's hired it for the day or something, and so we'll be in the something other room, blah blah blah. So we went to this other room, and we were just basically on a regular whiteboard with pens for the day. Sounds like Sprog, but it handled it better. Didn't run and also didn't punch you in the. Yep, yep. Very much so. I very much got Sprog vibes from him. Um, So we walked into this other room, and Dad goes, "Right, let's think about the game for the day." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Like, what are we going to run for them?" And I was like, "You don't know what we're going to run. It's an 8 hour game from 9 to 5, and you don't have plans." And he's like, that's what the first half hour's for. That's why I asked you to come in early." I was like, "Come in early. It's 8:30 now, and they arrive at 9." He's like, "Yeah, this is welcome to my job." And he goes, I'm thinking of doing something with like a quest for, because he sets it in his own world in Alestria. He goes, I'm thinking of doing a quest for them to and he explains something real simple that's going on in his world at the moment. There's manticores and orcs and hobgoblins all fighting each other in an area of the world called the Basin. And there's like a third part. There's like an extra party of humans, or like human-like warriors that are mind controlling and stuff. And he's like, you remember the so and so that you encountered during the so and so game, and he references the Sirens and Silver Pirates game that I did as a 12 shot with him on his channel ages ago. He was like, "You remember the knights that had all of the nail sticking in them?" And I was like, "Yeah, vaguely." And he goes, "Yeah, so we'll just use them as the bad guys." And I was like, "Do I need to know anything about it?" You didn't run and also didn't punch him in the face. That's a good point. It was reciprocal. Um, what's up, Tuesday Rose? How's it going? Just talking about my helping out Dag here in Perth with his GMing, his stuff, and how that all went. So we quickly went through on the whiteboard like beginning, middle, end situation, and he laid it out as like 9 till 10, 10 till 11, 11 till 12, 12 till 1 is lunch break, and then 1 till 2, 2 till 3, 3 till 4, and then they're done. They leave at 4. So I was like, oh yeah, that's not actually too bad. It's like 3 or 4 hours in the morning, 3 or 4 hours in the evening, in the afternoon. And we went, okay, the first part is introducing their characters because there's going to be how many of them? And Dag's like, don't know, somewhere between 10 and 30. And I was like, how the fuck do you do this? He's like, this is my life. This is what I do. I was like, okay, so you don't know how many are coming. He goes, it depends how many turn up. There's gonna be around 14 guarantees, and there'll be probably like 5 or so walk-ins. And sure enough, I think he was right. I think that we ended up with 17 kids for the day. Um, but he doesn't even know ahead of time how many are going to be there, which is insane. And we have to have 17 kids all playing D&D together in like one party. So he goes, they've all been told to bring a level 3, I think, character. And if they don't, here's some. pre-gens that he's printed off, and he's got those sitting on the table. Extreme DMing. It's the first time I've ever done a co-DMing situation with Dag, and it's the first time I've ever done a party of that many people as well. So a couple of firsts that day. So I'm GMing with him. I'm sorry, I'm prepping with him, and we decide that the rough plan is going to be like with a bit of a twist at the end. They're going to reveal that they're going to think it's hobgoblins that are the bad guys the whole way through. Then when they get to fighting the hobgoblin captain, they're going to realize that the hobgoblin captain has been taken over by this mind control human-like army with the nails through the armor. Um, and they're gonna have to decide whether or not to actually fight the guy or try and save his life by taking the nails out, kind of thing, and save him from being mind controlled. And we came up with some like twists and turns along the way, and like okay, the first thing is to get to an outpost. The sort of the midpoint cliffhanger before lunch is going to be that they're going to discover that they have to go through a sandstorm in order to get to where they're going, and blah blah blah. We came up with a bunch of stuff just and we're just like kind of half finalizing the rough idea of that when people start to arrive and file in and these kids are like at a guess I would say they're somewhere between like 11 and 17 give or take, most of them around about 13 to 15 I'd say. I love that he has a job doing that for the government. It's pretty amazing, eh? Pretty weird that the Australian government's like, here's some money for working at the youth centre, and you can do whatever you want at the youth centre, and he chooses DMing. 30 minutes prep work for about 8 hours game sounds legit. Yeah, yeah. Excuse me. VLVL like to write the runtime on the board. Here is game. Here is lunch. Here is snack. Yeah, they'd probably like a very similar situation. How do you code GM? Just take turns on telling the story? Well, I'll tell you exactly how it ended up working out. I love TT when we thought the hobgoblins were bad and they were just the front line fighting the real bad guys. So, local or federal government? God, I don't know. You'd have to ask him. So then the players, the kids all arrive. They start to, file in and sit their seats and stuff. And Dag explains the house rules, the sort of the rules of the day. Most of the kids he's GM'd for numerous times, so he knows them by name and like they all know his rules and stuff. And so it helped to smooth the process across. He introduces me. Introduces me. The kid that recognized me was like sitting way at the back at this point. He'd like gone into as far as the far back corner as far as he could get away from us. Your noise gate is saving us from what? My coughing, my sniffing. Um, what was I saying? So yeah, he's describing the rules of the day and like if you need to talk, raise your hand. And what do you do if you need to get the attention of everybody? And all the kids are like, speaking to the pineapple. They all shout in unison, speaking to the pineapple. Um, and he was like, yep. And then he turns to me and he goes, You've, yeah, I should probably explain, right? I was like, yes, please. And then he tells this anecdote of a game that he was running once where they were all like pirates or something, and they had to go save a woman from a desert island or something as part of the quest that they were given. But when they got there, she'd gone crazy and was talking to this pineapple and had drawn a face on it, like Castaway Wilson style. And then the kids ended up voting to save the pineapple instead of her and leave her on the island or something. And then after that, whenever they took like a vote, I think they voted the captain and voted the pineapple to become captain of their pirate ship, and then they were all talking to the pineapple every time that they wanted to talk to the group as a whole or something. And it became this shorthand for if somebody shouts "talking to the pineapple," it's their way of saying to the whole class, the whole group, um, that hey, I think we should take a vote on something, or I think we should all discuss this as a group rather than individually. So it's quite interesting to see Dag's ways of the little things that he's invented for the game as a way of like handling
having 17 children playing the game all at once in one party. So then we started off the game, and the co-GMing started, which was really interesting for me. So Dag started off by telling me ahead of time, like, you're going to play. I'm basically going to throw to you for the GM, for the role playing stuff every so often. And so he goes, this is the situation you're all in. You're at an army camp. You're at this part of the world, and he describes it with very little detail. So he's obviously explained his homebrew world to them multiple times, and they know roughly where they are and what area they're in and stuff. And he goes, "You're in the part of Alestria where the bloody blah is happening and the so and so war." Um, some shorthand that helps get him to the point, and then he goes, "And you're all at an army camp." And then in walks the commander. And then he sort of takes a step aside, and I walk up with my big fluffy mustache, bumbling as I'm talking and stuff. I give them the quest, which is, go find out why the supply run has been attacked by hobgoblins or something, and deal with the hobgoblins and blah de blah, whatever it is. Um, and then they set off, and Dag has them roll to get out of the city gates or something, and then he has them decide as a group, like, are you going to do stealth checks? Are you going to do what was it? So he goes, once you're out of the door, so there's a set of three gates to this city, one of the outer which is being besieged by orcs almost daily. And so once you're out of the third gate, now you're in real danger because that's where the orcs are and stuff. Um, and he goes, there's a chance of like sneaking your way through the valley before any orc scouts see you, or there's a chance of running. So he makes the whole group vote as a party. Do you want to use athletics checks to run out of this valley as quickly as you can, get out of danger, or do you want to use stealth checks or whatever? And then once they've decided as a group, he then says, "All right, up to three of you can roll. So amongst yourselves, choose who's got the best stealth, and they're going to be the ones to roll as a group, kind of thing." And so he rolls stealth for them as a group. They succeed. Everybody's getting 20s because they're all cheating like the fucking Billy O by the end of it. By the end of the day, there'd been more numbers in the 20s than is statistically possible. So that's one of the things you just deal with when you're GMing for kids, I guess. Um, they roll really well and get out of the valley, so they get into the basin where all of this fighting's going on with the hobgoblins, and the orcs, and everything, and they start making their way across this other place. But I said, like, I kind of joined in at that point as the co-GMing has now passed to me, and I say, all right, for this next leg of the journey, you're going to describe to me what the problems are that you face, like in a way that I've done before with the Viva guys and in other games as well. I tend to start with a skill challenge, like I'll give it to the players to help me role play, help me develop the story. And I'll say, like, okay, what's this is a skill challenge. There's going to be 5 stages to it because there's 17 of you. Each stage can have up to 3 people participating in it. But by the end of it, everyone should have contributed in some way. The first stage was your stealth thing, getting out of the valley. Now it is now once you're out, what's the next stage that troubles you? And somebody was like, "Oh, terrain problems or something. It's hard to track where we're meant to go." And so they did like a survival check or something, and the 3 people who were best at survival chimed in. There's always there's always that 1 or 2 kids, or in this case, like 5 kids that were like, I'm good at everything. I want to put my hand up for everything. And you have to keep reminding them. I specifically said, in no uncertain terms, everybody can contribute once and everybody has to have contributed by the end of it. So if you've already rolled for stealth, you're done. Oh, but my highest survival. Well, then you shouldn't have. You should have held on for hoping for a survival check rather than jumping in on a stealth check. It was interesting to see how Dag acts with the kids as well. He's like at some points he was like a no nonsense brutal motherfucker. One kid had. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll get to that when I get to it. Eventually they succeed on these challenges and stuff, and they get to the first of the story locations, which was kind of a red herring situation where Dag had told me ahead of time the the trick of this location is humans looking at it from the outside think that brutal, horrible, savage manticores, orcs, and hobgoblins are all fighting incessantly because they're all brutal assholes. When in actuality, because of the nature of their cultures, manticores, orcs, and hobgoblins are all very respectfully fighting with each other because fighting is just part of their culture. Orcs, you want a sandwich? Let's have a fight about it. You want to fuck? Let's fight about it. Can I get you to fix my TV? Let's have a fight about it. Um, and so I was trying to lean into that with when I was helping Dad come up with what the story was going to be. I said, like, when you get to the first story location, you're going to see a bunch of manticores have taken over the outpost, this human outpost, and their instinct, no doubt, is going to be to attack these manticores and kill them because they think that they've overtaken their thing. And then once they've done so, or they've driven them out or whatever, only then do they realize the outpost was already abandoned and the manticores just moved in. And if they'd have tried diplomacy, then the manticores would have had information that was pertinent to them about the hobgoblins. I mean, like, yeah, the hobgoblins are acting pretty weird at the moment and stuff. So sure enough, it played out exactly as we happened. They got to this outpost. This fella's like, "I've got boots of climbing." Don't know why he's got boots of climbing for a third level character, but sure. Um, so Dag's like, "Yeah, all right," and you climb to the roof, and then we split the party at that point. So there's those downstairs who can't fly or climb, who are trying to get in through the portcullis of this little tower. And then I go across to the other side of the room in this small corner where there's like five or six of these kids who are like, I've got a flying speed because I'm an Aarakocra or whatever. And those ones had gone up onto the roof and they're making their way down from the trapdoor on the roof of this thing. So we split the party. Really handy when you've got that many kids and two DMs. Um, and then I have one of them open the trapdoor and he sees a manticore in there. He's like, oh, fuck. And immediately Eldritch blasts him. And so he starts off the fight and the manticore like goes to defend himself. And so they immediately start slaughtering these manticores. One of them rolls to hit the manticore as a fighter class by the looks of it. And he rolls like a 20 something. He hits and then he does like 4d8 plus 3d6 fire damage or something. And I was like, you're level 3. What the fuck are you doing? He's like, oh, I've got a luck blade, something plus 3 longsword of dragon slaying manticore face, poison sting blade. And I was like, hey, Dag. Dag's like, what? He goes, this kid's got. I didn't tell on him straight away. I was just like, sure, the manticore dies, and then another manticore pops out because who knew? There's another manticore beneath him. Another Manticore comes up. I continue with the fight. This guy's just clearly like overpowered for no reason. And then eventually, when we start to try and consolidate, Dag's like, "Oh, how are you doing over in your corner?" And I was like, "We've slain like 5 Manticore because this guy's got a +3 longsword of slaying of dragon and shit." And Dag's like, "Oh, is that right? Huh? Where did you get that from?" And the kid's like, "Oh, it was a don't remember the terminology they were using, but basically, it was like at the end of each of Dag's one day of DMing that he does. At the end of that day, any kids that participated in that day get to keep a magic. They get to find a magic item and keep it as like a keepsake for their character. But there's certain rules that he puts in place about it. Like once you've assigned it to a character, it can only stay on that character. You can't go swapping it around and stuff. Um, you can't go swapping it around. So this kid was claiming this is the magic item that I got from that previous holiday special that you ran on Valentine's Day or whatever the fuck. And Doug's like, yeah, okay, I remember giving you that, and it wasn't a +3 longsword of blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, it was. And the kid starts arguing. He goes, okay, sure. What was it again? And he goes, dragon slaying. He goes, what kind of dragon? And he goes, oh, it was infused with blue dragon blood or something. And I think no, I think the kid said red dragon. And he goes, you know what hates red dragons? He goes, what? And he goes, blue dragons. And do you know where blue dragons live? Where? In the desert. Do you know where you are at the moment? In the desert? Yeah. So a blue dragon flies overhead and blasts you with lightning. Dag just brutally blasts this kid with lightning. He goes, luckily the blade acts as a lightning rod, so it deflects a lot of the damage, and you don't take much damage from it. But when the lightning settles, the blade has lost all of its magical abilities, and it's just a +3 blade with no extra blah blah blah. So Dag just brutally murders this kid's plans to be a uh, overpowered min maxing whatever. Um, and the kid, to his credit, just like okay, he just like acknowledged it. I think he was a slightly older kid, maybe like 14, 15, 16 or something. And he's like, yeah, all right. He kind of acknowledged that he was being a cheating asshole and was way overpowered for his level and just kind of accepted it and moved on. So they excuse me. This thing he's got sick of all the extra shit from the kids. Yeah, probably. Um, so the so they kill all the manticores. They get inside, and I have them roll some investigation checks, and me and Dag slowly piece together for them, like as they're investigating things, what has actually happened. They find a journal. They find a journal of the last person there, and he goes, and the journal says, and he goes across to me, and I was like, oh, okay, what reading this woman's last diary entry out loud. What accent should she have? And the kids all start shouting accents out at me. Jamaican, Irish, Scottish. I was like, okay, Jamaican, Irish, Scottish, Frenchman. Okay, let's try that. And so I had them all laughing, like trying to switch between my Jamaican accent and my Scottish and French and all the rest of it. Um, and so I was reading out this journal entry, like explaining the next part of the story, essentially that like the supplies, the outpost that had been abandoned because it didn't, the people didn't realize that the supplies were still being sent. They thought they'd been abandoned by the main town, but the supplies were being sent. They were actually just being intercepted by the Manticore. And so it was setting up, sorry, not the Manticore, the Hobgoblins. So I was setting up that the Hobgoblins are the main bad guys, blah, blah, blah. Then Dag introduces these two orcs coming from the distance that might be able to tell you some more information because basically we needed to give them information that the Manticores had that they just slaughtered all of them without speaking to them at all. So we needed to give them some exposition. And he just introduces some orcs walking along. So I immediately yes and him and start putting on this orc. It's kind of we're standing up at it's kind of like a classroom layout. So I'm standing up at the front and I'm being an orc and I'm walking forwards, and then Dag's taking on the other orc, and we start just like bantering about just making shit up, just talking about the weather or something until one of us notices the party and is like, "Oh, what's going on over here? Do you reckon they want to fight?" And then the party kind of splits as one of them's like, "Oh, I'm going to rush out to meet the orcs," and the other's like, "I'm going to stay behind and like fortify this fortress that we were in already." And so the party splits. We Dag at every stage like stops them and goes like, "All right, 2 votes. We're not splitting the party any more than two." Dag allows this party to split, but as, in a maximum of two places at any one time. So he goes, hands up for those staying behind to fortify the fortress. All right, hands up for those who are going out to meet the orcs. And then I take one of them, he takes the other. Um, and one of them's trying to talk to the orc. Is like a really shy kid, obviously. And by this point, it's like I don't know, 11, 12 or something. Um, And so I've gotten to know the kids' personalities a little bit. I've gotten to know where the loud kids are and the shy kids and stuff. And I noticed one of these shy kids has turned to what I assume is his brother from his appearance. And the kid's like, no, that's not a good time to use it. And I was like, don't you fucking play his character for him. So I walked over to the kid and I was like, what was it you wanted to do? And he goes, oh, I wanted to use an illusion spell. And I was like, okay, cool. What do you want to do? What's your intention with the illusion spell? And he goes, I want to make a snake. And I was like, yeah, cool. You want to make a snake, but what's your intention with the snake? And he was like, what? And I was like, you tell me what it is you want. Like, what are you hoping to achieve? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Try. And it was obviously he just wanted to use something from his character sheet. So I was like, okay. Um, what you do is you recognize that the orc really wants to fight somebody. He's kind of raring for a fight. He's got himself all pumped up and he's hoping to fight somebody. So you create an illusion of a snake behind him, and then one of the other kids overhears and goes, "I turned into a snake," because he was a druid. He was like, "I turned into a snake," and I was like, "Yeah, cool. You turn into a snake and distract that orc, but this orc wants his own." And so I was like, nope, you're not going to steal from this shy kid's opportunity to shine here. I'm focusing on him. You turn into a snake and do your thing, but right now you conjure a snake as an illusion. And then I start throwing myself around the room like as this orc wrestling this snake, this illusionary snake. And I was like, oh, and you keep dodging. And every time that the orc goes to grab the snake, you make the illusion move to the side so that he thinks that he's failing. And then I grabbed one of the dice off the table and I rolled it. And as soon as it landed, I was like, I just knocked it. So I was like, oh, it was a nat one. So he's not smart enough to to realize that it's an illusion. So he's diving around wrestling this snake, and I'm throwing myself around the room, and the kid's laughing his ass off, and he's really having a good time of it. And I was like, there you go. Yes, you don't allow people to be like, that's not a good time to use that spell. Just live your best life. So they're distracting these orcs, and eventually they beat the orcs in the fight, and I'm out of breath, and Dag's out of breath because he's been fighting his snake. And he goes, "All right, yeah, you guys are all right." And in a true orc fashion, they're like, we had a fight. It was respectable. You beat us in a fight, so now what do you want to know?" And then we were able to give them the information that they needed. Um, Meanwhile, the people that had been fortifying the camp, Dag had been kind of going back to them and being like, "By the way, those on lookout have noticed that there's a big sandstorm on the horizon, and you think it's getting closer, and you see there's a big face in it." And he turns to me and he goes, "There's a big face in the sand." So I immediately turn around and I go, and I start spinning on the spot and he goes, "This face keeps to spin around with the spinning the spinning tornado of sand. Every time it comes around, it seems like it's another grotesque face." And as he's saying this, I'm obviously picking up on his cue, and I'm spinning on the spot. And every time I turn around, I've got a different face on. And the kids are all laughing as I'm the spinning sand with the face in it. And then so that Paddy over there is freaking out about the um, the sandstorm and how they're going to have to go through that. But then the information they get from the orcs is that one of them's like, "Oh, how do we get around the sandstorm?" And he goes, "Mr. Sandy," and the orcs have named it. "Mr. Sandy, you don't need to get around him. He's harmless. Like you can just go through him." "Oh, but he's coming towards us," and he's like, "Mr. Sandy doesn't move. He's not. He doesn't move. He stays in one spot." Because what Dag and I had prearranged in that half hour at the start of the day was that the sort of terrain obstacle on the way was going to be that there was like a funnel spider. One of the they lives in the desert and lives at the bottom of a funnel, and all of the creatures like fall into it and then can't get back out again. It was kind of like one of those, but it was a an air elemental that was stuck in the desert and was trying to get out, but as he's flailing around, he can't get out, and he's just sinking further and further into the desert, and he's just created this sandstorm around him. So they decide eventually. So that's when we split for lunch, and went off to we went off to do some. What did Doug and I do? I feel like we did something else. I think Doug and I went to the local shopping mall to get some lunch and talk about other stuff. Um, then the next session, the next part of it was when we got back. They had to make some sort of like survival checks to like get through the storm, and we ended up splitting the party into like 10 different chunks because everybody had their own unique idea of to like, "Oh, I'm gonna cast." This one kid was like, "I'm gonna cast mold earth to create all of the sand into like a block, like a sandstone block beneath my feet, and then I'm gonna surf on it." And I was like, "You do that." Another kid was like, "I've got a lasso of something from a previous game that allows me to latch onto any animal and then drag it closer." And I was like, "Sure." We did describe these giant. I forgot to mention there were giant bees in this sandstorm as well, which previously I'd had them roll perception for to see if they could tell that they were. And these bees were like drone. There was like a droning noise in the sandstorm. So they get attacked by these giant bees. One of them gets a lasso to grab a hold of one of the giant bees and ends up getting tugged along by it. Another one of them gets pierced by a giant bee stinger and just gets pulled along with that. And so it's now splitting into all these people that are getting sucked away in the storm with the bees and all the people that are not. And it was just absolute chaos and a lot of fun for everybody. That pretty much took up the rest of the day, I think. And then the second time I went back, it was the same kids, and it was continuation where it was the this was after they've gotten out of the sandstorm and they've dealt with some more orcs and hobgoblins and things. They had a what was it? Oh, it was the ambush. They went to an encampment, like an army encampment, and a couple of them like tried to sneak ahead of the party. One of the kids had decided to play a blind sorcerer, and he'd made himself blind for no reason. It seems he just wanted to, which is very on brand for kids, in my opinion. In my experience DMing for kids, there's often just like weird, quirky things that they're just like, "I've got this cool idea to only ever cast fire spells and nothing else, and that's my gimmick." The kids love to play with gimmicks for their characters, and this kid's gimmick was that he was blind, and so we were like, "All right, let's if that's what he wants to play, well, let's lean into it." And like we kept giving him disadvantage on perception checks and shit. But the same kid that was playing the blind sorcerer was the one to go, I'm going to sneak ahead and see if I can see anything in this camp. And we were like, okay, you do so. We genuinely gave it a pause like that to see if anybody else around him went, you can't see, mate. What the fuck are you gonna? So nobody chimed up. So we were like, all right, you sneak ahead and you pop your head over the balustrade of this army camp, and you don't see anything. I don't see anything at all. No, you don't see anything because you're playing a blind sword. Oh yeah, I'm blind, aren't I? What you do see, what the rest of the party sees, however, is that as soon as you popped your head over the camp and looked around for nothing, these two hands reached up and grabbed you and pulled you over the encampment, and now you're inside the encampment. Oh shit! Did he get kidnapped? Yeah, he got kidnapped. What are you going to do about it? Roll initiative or whatever. Man, initiative was a pain in the ass for this group as well. Because there were 17 different characters, I basically rolled. I put on the board 25 to 20. I just wrote on whiteboard 25 to 20, uh, 15 to 20, whatever, all the way down to zero. Um, and then I just did them in groups. All those with an initiative of above 20. Weirdly, statistically strange, some might say, there were like 12 kids out of 17. Maybe that's an exaggeration. There were like 7 kids out of 17 that got above 20 on their initiative checks. Crazy. So I wrote all of those guys into the top group, and then I was like, anyone with 15 to 20, another like four. Oh, interesting. You all have strangely high initiative modifiers for level 3. Um, I wrote those down. And then there was the kids at the bottom. There was like nothing in the middle groups from all of the, what should be the average. And then there was the kids that right at the bottom who were clearly the ones who were like, I ain't gonna cheat for shit. And there was like a few that were like a initiative of 3 or something. And then Dag and I rolled a few of the bad guys, and we went into full block. And we were like, all right, one initiative block at a time, starting with the 25 to 20s, put your hands up. That's those people. Okay, Dag, you take those half, I take these half. And I walked over to them and was like, right, what are you doing? What are you doing on your turn? And then it was just a matter of like, be quick. What are you doing? Okay, you do that thing. Roll a thing for me. Yeah, that'll hit. Do some damage. And then walked back over to the board and just kept a track. Dag and I were keeping a track of all the baddies like on the board so that everybody could see everything. And then we'd be like, which one are you attacking? Number 3, number 4, or number 6? I'm attacking the one that was attacking my friend. No, that was number 5. Keep up. Number five's dead. Yes, that was fun. They eventually realized that they were being attacked by there was a spy among their group. So one of the kids that had been playing with them the whole time was a volunteer that Ag works with a few times. Some of the older kids also volunteer at this community center. And so Dag had prearranged with him to be like, you're going to play with the group, but you're also going to be the spy, and you're going to, when I give you the signal, essentially, you're going to turn. So that's what happened in this fight. They realized that this guy turned on them, and I described them as noticing one of these nails sticking out of him. And by this point, they'd seen a couple of people with nails in their thing, and how they were acting a bit weird if they were people with nails in. One of the Archfey warlocks tried to charm him, and I said the charm just immediately fails without a need for a roll. And as it does so, you see this nail head kind of light up, and he's like, "Oh, what does that mean? I'm going to hit him again." I'm like, "Okay." There were clues there, but whatever. Eventually, they piece it together that these nails are like mind controlling things, and some guy with a crossbow pulls up with some nails and goes chung 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 and fires 3 of them into the super overpowered kid, the one with the +3 longsword, blah blah blah. And that kid's eyes light up. Now he's got the opportunity to just murder all his friends with the super powerful longsword. And murder all his friends he does, because he had managed to wrangle with Dag, like, can I still have the once per day powerful ability, blah, blah, blah? And Dag was like, sure, threw him a bone, essentially. So he turns, as soon as he becomes an evil guy, he gets as many of his friends in the cone as possible, and he points his sword forwards and uses the dragon breath weapon of this longsword to do some stupid amount of damage to all of his friends, which outright murders most of them because it drops them to 0, and then with enough left over to kill them outright. Dag just immediately walks over to those kids, gives them another regen character, and was like, your brother Garrick pops up, and you're still with the team. Um, then what else? I can't remember. Something else happens. They move on to the hobgoblins. They try and find. They work out that the hobgoblins are responsible for the truck of supplies going missing. So they go after them. They come across this abandoned castle or something where they find this hobgoblin captain who's wearing more of this armor with iron nails in it, and they're like, "Oh, he's not actually working for the hobgoblins the whole time. It's actually this is the big reveal. It's not actually hobgoblins. It's mind control, and it's making it look like the hobgoblins are in charge." Yada yada. And then Dag put it to a vote at the end because they couldn't decide what to do. So there was like a choice to join them. You could actually join the Hobgoblin, the bad guys' army. You could fight. You could pretend to join them but fight them, or you could run or something. And he put it to a vote. About a third of the class went with each of them, and then we kind of co-GM'd them until the end. Like those that run make some of these checks. Those that join them make some of these checks. Those that trying to deceive them make some deception checks. Blah blah blah. And then Dag kind of just turned it into an epilogue roundup moment where because we were out of time by that point, he's like, "This is um, this is where the story ends up going." And then as we're packing up, one of the kids goes, "Do we get any magic items?" And Dag's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Every time you join in with one of my quests, you get a magic item at the end of it. So you guys get a pin of mind control, something or other, blah de blah, and once per day you can cast." And he's clearly pulling it out of his ass on the spot. He hadn't thought about it at all, but he goes, "It's like Speak with Dead, but you can cast it on somebody living." And I was like, "So it's called it's a pin of Speak with the Living?" And Doug's laughing, and he's like, "Yeah, but like it forces them to tell you the truth." I was like, "So it's a Zone of Truth spell crossed with a Speak with Dead spell, but for living people, like suggestion." And he's like, "Shut up." And that's what he gave them all to keep for their characters. So it was big. So it was a big game. There was 17 kids playing. First time playing with that many kids. First time playing with a co-GMing situation where we're just flying by the seat of our pants and making most of it up as we go. But it was a lot of fun, and that was a few of the days while I've been in Perth. Then there was the Wooten Fudge stuff, of course. We haven't even got on to talking about the Winter's Tale stuff, and I'm in Winter's Tale studio. It sounded like a proper laugh. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Dag has a lot of experience running for kids, and that's why he says to me afterwards, you've always talked about how I'm impressive that I don't get phased much by your shenanigans and antics when you're playing D&D with me, and I was like, yeah, and he goes, now you see why, and I was like, yeah, yeah, you don't get easily phased as a DM when you're used to playing for 20 teenagers. So that was fun. Um, I've also done other shit with Dag too, but I'll move on to talking about Winter's Tales crew. I've done a bunch of stuff with the Winter's Tales crew. Most of the Winter's Tales collaborations you've actually seen though, because so I need to up my game. Yeah, I do. Most of the Winter's Tales collaborations you've seen because I'm at the Winter's Tales studio. You've seen me doing the world building with them and the Koa, the Chronicles of Aelwyn stuff, which has been really fun. We have hung out outside of gaming D&D stuff as well though, because Dag and AJ and I all went to town, and we had a hangout day around town, painting the town red as it were, uh, in a very not hitting the nightclubs kind of a way. We instead went to a um, we instead went to an escape room. We had a walk through town, went to a couple of shops. Dag took me to a board game shop that he liked, a TTRPG store called Tactics that he apparently takes everybody to. Um, um, he bought a few Malifaux things. I bought a card game, um, and then we went to an escape room, and it was like wizard themed escape room, which was really really cool. It was I was what's the word? I was angrily disappointed by some of the puzzles though, because they were just not logical. And AJ was laughing at me that I'm not that I need my puzzles to have like a reason for having some indication of why this puzzle somehow relates to that puzzle, because otherwise it's just trial and error and makes no sense. She's like, that's how fucking escape rooms are. I was like, but the puzzles should have some indication that this relates to that. Something that's not just guessing. So, for instance, as one example, in this room with us, in this wizard's tower, there's a locked wooden door with a big brass knocker on it. And there's a bird cage over on the other side of the room. And the bird cage has rocks at the bottom of it. And at one point, we take all of the rocks out of the bottom of the bird cage, and we see that on the bottom of the bird cage there is an image of a big brass door knocker, same as there is on the door. So it's very clear that it's the same door knocker. To the left of that image, at the bottom of the bird cage, there are 5 pips, like on the side 5 on a 6-sided dice. And then on the right of the birdcage door knocker, there are 2 pips. So 5 on the left, 2 on the right of this door knocker on the bottom of the birdcage. So Dag walks over to the door and goes, it's quite clearly like you've got to knock 5 times and then 2 times. So he does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Nothing happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Picks up the pace. Nothing happens. Slows it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Nothing. Okay, so he grabs the knocker and he does it same again, all the same again with the knocker, and he's for a good like 2 or 3 minutes. Dag is standing at this door doing 5 knocks and then 2 knocks in different pacing. Nothing happens. We move on. We're like working our way through some puzzles. I found a puzzle that really pisses me off because it's like 6 portraits on the wall that all move. They're clearly like TV screens, and they're portraits of people. And if you press a magnetic wand to something on the wall, the people in the portraits move around, but the backgrounds don't, and you've got to line up the person's outfit with the background to put them in the correct portrait, I guess. And it's like there's just no there's no rhyme or reason to this. It just seems to be trial and error. That's just boring and annoying, especially because the portraits are like slightly lagging, and so you don't know if it's lagging because you've done it wrong, and then you go to press it again, and then they go it from the first time. So it was just pissing me off, and AJ could see that. She was like, "Just give me it. Let me do this." So I went off to try and do something else while she was doing this. She trial and error just sort of brute forced it, got them in the right place, and something opened and clicked. We moved on with something else. Meanwhile, Dag's got something else and it's worked. Eventually, AJ goes back to the door and goes, "Shave and haircut, 2 bits." And the door opens. And I was like, "Fuck you." I just shouted out you to whoever was watching us on the TV screens, the monitors or whatever. I was like, that is bullshit. There is nothing to say that it has to be musical in the knock because shave and a haircut 2 bits is not 5 and 2. Musically, if you look at the musical score of shave and a haircut 2 bits, it would be 1 1 1 space 2 because there's a different pacing. Yeah, the da is 1 2 3 and 4. 1 2. That's not 5 and 2. If it was 5 and 2 with some musical notes above it to be like an indication that you needed it to be a musical something or other, or if it was like a picture of somebody shaving and getting a haircut or something, so you know it's like shaving a haircut 2 bits. Like just any other indication than 5 and 2, because it's not 5 and 2. If it was 1 1 2 1 0 2, 1 1 2 1 0 2, something like that, that would have made sense, but it wasn't. And the fact that somebody was watching and going, they're knocking 5 and 2 times, but it's clearly not the right arbitrary organization of those 5 and 2. It's fucking bullshit. Anyway, I was pissed at that. All throughout this room, we're finding these these small potion bottles with different coloration. They're coloured and they've got different names like mugwort or whatever, pondweed. And we put them. We've got we've got this wooden flat thing that's got numbers 1 to 8 in them. At some other point, we found a book with blank pages, but we find a black light at some point, and we realize, oh, there's writing under these blank pages. We flick through this book, almost giving up on the fact that there's no pages in it with any writing on, until eventually, oh, this page has writing on it somewhere, just randomly in the middle of the book. Here, this page has writing on it, and it has the 8 different potion titles written out, but 2 of them are numbered 1, 2 of them are numbered 4, 2 of them are 6, and 2 of them are 8. And it's like, okay, shit. So which 2 are which 2? And we'd found 8 potions by the end. This is like really late into the game. And so we line them up with the 1 to 8 thing, and we put the 2 ones in next to the 1 slot. Obviously, only one of them can fit in at a time. The 2 4s, the 2 6s, and the 2 8s. We line them up, and I was like, okay, so there's the options. It's obvious that we have to pick which one out of the 2 1s, which one out of the 2 4s, and so on. So to my mathematical brain, that's 2 options for the first one, 2 options for the second one, 2 options for the third, and 2 options for the fourth, which means it's 2 to the power of 4 options, which is only 16 options. I can brute force 16 options very quickly and work my way through it. And the best way to do it without forgetting which ones you've already done and which ones you haven't, use binary. Easy peasy. I know binary, so I start off, these are all zeros. And then I change the ones in the 8 position. I swap those 2 over. Nothing happens, so I swap so I swap those ones back and swap the next 2. Then I swap the ones in the 8 position again, and then I swap both the 8 and the 6 back, and I swap the 4. And then the 4 and the 8, the 4 and the 6, and swap the 8 back. The 4, the 8, and the 6. No, okay, so I swap all those back, and I go ones, and then I work down through in binary order, just going up one at a time in binary. I go through all 16 options, and I do so very quickly. That's the important part to know. Flick, 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 and I'm spinning them around because up to that point, there's been a lot of things in the room. Like we found a chess puzzle piece at one point. Then when we put it on the right space of a chessboard, it was magnetized to that space, and then something opened. And so I was expecting that the right bottles would have magnets or some sort of sensors in them that they would know when they've been put in the right space. I found out later it was just some fucking dude in a back room somewhere watching us through a webcam and waiting for us to put it in the right order to click a button to say yes, they got it right. So I sped through all 16 options, guaranteeing that I've done all of them, and I was like, well, that's not it. We must have been missing something else. I walked off and did something else and was like really frustrated with the room at this point because there was another puzzle where I needed a 4-digit code for something, and I had to get that from which words were capitalized in some book across the other side of the room, and the word had no reason to be anything to do with this chest, but whatever. So I was kind of like, that didn't seem to have a connection, but sure. With literally 2 minutes to go, like, because there's a wizard counting down, and he's like, "Oh, the sorcerers are almost here. You better hurry up with that potion of invulnerability or whatever bullshit it is." 2 minutes to go before we're out of our 1 hour time allotment. AJ goes, "Oh, the potions need to be in the order of the colors of the animal transmutation puzzle that we found earlier in the thing. So let's try red, blue, green, black." And he puts them in red, blue, green, black, and then click, the door opens, and that was the final puzzle to get the code word that we needed to get out of the whatever. And I was like, "Fuck you! I fucking used that. I used that same. I put them in that exact code. I guarantee it." And then somebody came in afterwards, like somebody who worked there, and was like, "So, what do you think?" And she was kind of talking to us after chat because it's an escape room that AJ used to actually work for. She used to be one of the game masters. Um, and and so she's kind of chatting half sort of colloquially with this ex-colleague of hers, as it were, and talking about the puzzle room and, oh, look, there's yeah, I really liked this puzzle and that puzzle, and I'm just holding my tongue and like I'm not, if you're not nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all, and I'm just kind of like standing there just waiting to be allowed out of this room. But then this woman recognizes that I'm not saying anything and turns to me and goes, "What did you think of it?" And I went, "I didn't like it." And she goes, "Oh," because she's not used to people being honest. And I was like, "It was not logical. This thing didn't make sense. That puzzle didn't make sense. This thing had no connection to that thing. And we were just meant to know that it was a 4-letter word from the book that we needed in the puzzle. And this thing and that thing. And I definitely did the answer for this. And we blah, 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 blah." And I start ranting about the 5 and 2 knock not being 5 and 2. Um, and she goes, "Oh yeah," she was like flustered a little bit. Our lass is probably earning like minimum wage, and I'm just fucking ranting at her at this point. But once I got started, I couldn't stop. So I was like, I definitely did that. And she goes, "Oh, we were watching. We didn't think you got the right one." And I was like, I guarantee I did the right one because I did it in binary. And she's like, "You just did it so fast. We thought that you'd missed it." And I was like, "Oh, well, fuck. I didn't know that somebody was watching me do the fucking thing." I was angry because the game wasn't how you logic. Yes, I was then told by AJ afterwards. She was like, "Oh, they have another puzzle here, another game room called Bank Heist, where it's all just in one room, but it is very much logical puzzles the whole way through. We probably would have been better doing that puzzle, rather than the wizard's room, which is for children and is much more interpretive and kind of like trial and error shit." Frustrating. I still had fun. I had fun. I had fun just being with Dag and AJ and just hanging out with D&D friends, doing a D&D D&D like thing. And then laughing about it afterwards about the lack of logic of it all. And it was Dag's first escape room, believe it or not. Dag had never done an escape room before, which was very surprising and exciting. That was fun. Know which game I'm going to do next time I visit. Yeah, next time I'm in Perth. Um, which might be sooner than I expect, because while I've been here, I was talking to Wooten Forge, and they said, "Hey, there's a really cool thing on in July called Winterfest, which is a huge event, and uh, they have GMs doing games for it and stuff. And if you do a game for it, then you get in for free, and it's a really remarkable thing." And at the same time as the Winterfest, like a couple of weeks before that, is Earth Supernova, which is another nerd convention thing. And so I was like, maybe I'll come back. I can justify coming back. I hate puzzle slash escape rooms. Don't think laterally enough, and end up feeling stupid. Yeah, it did leave me feeling a bit stupid. Apparently, they do one. They do like some horror ones as well. AJ was telling me about it because obviously she said, as a game master, as somebody who actually runs the games and like is the person on the computer looking at you while you're doing it, she has to first go through all of the puzzle rooms and see if she can work it out, and then she goes, well, it goes through them and then goes through like how the puzzles are meant to be solved and stuff. And one of the ones she said she couldn't finish. One of the ones she couldn't finish at all was called, I think it's just called Cannibal, and you start out in a coffin, so it's not for the claustrophobic. You start out in a coffin, and it's like a two-player one, I think. And each of you is in a coffin next to each other, so you can shout, yeah, you can shout to each other, but you can't see each other or interact. And you have puzzles in your coffin, and each of you has a puzzle in your coffin, and you have to work out together what the puzzles are because you might have the answers to the other person's puzzle and shit. So it's scary and very collaborative and very frustrating to do with an idiot, I'm sure. Um, But eventually you work out enough puzzles to get out of the coffin. But once you're out of the coffin, you're now in a cage. You're now in a cage in a room that looks, sounds, and smells like an actual cannibal's like basement dungeon. And the smell is apparently the worst part. AJ said, and she's got a really sensitive sense of smell. She said that they apparently pump in the scent of flesh, like like cooked pork, I guess, or cooked flesh or something. And so it was really visceral, and you really get a sense that if you don't get out in an hour, the cannibal comes back and kills you and eats you. And that's the only puzzle where she had to be like, I can't do this, let me out. Sounds pretty scary. Sounds pretty terrifying. But they've got all sorts of ones. They've got one called the President's Briefcase, where it's like it's basically a defuse the bomb, keep talking and no one explodes situation where you've got the President's Briefcase and it's got a bomb in it and you've got to defuse the bomb in an hour. Yeah, sounds like they've got a hell of a lot of good escape rooms there. I'll have to check some out whenever I'm in Perth. Um, what else? What else? What else? What else? Bum, 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 bum. Check my calendar, see what I've forgotten. Oh, Dags, that's right. I went to Dags, well, been to Dags a couple of times now. I went to Dags the other night for board games, which was really fun. I played a game called Nemesis. Any of you played Nemesis? Um, I've played Nemesis before. It's a really good game. It's a fucking horrible game, but I enjoy it for some reason. It's a very masochistic board game. It's very difficult to win, and I very rarely actually won the game of Nemesis, and I always rage at it and get really angry at it. But then I want to play it again. My brother really likes escape rooms. There's apparently some cool ones in New Orleans. Nice. Best one I ever played, and best one I probably ever will play as an escape room is the first ever one that I did in Hungary. In Budapest, there was an escape room that was just kind of somebody's apartment essentially, but it had been decorated really well to look like an old adventuring kind of the old, the British people from Tarzan and stuff like that with the fucking travelers' hats and the monocles and shit, and just like globes and maps and accumulated tribal masks and skulls and feathers and shit. They're all around his apartment in like two or three different rooms. Really fantastic, over the top layout design. Uh, and Lizzie and I played it back in Hungary in 2012 before 2014 it might have been. Before escape rooms were really a thing. Nobody, like Lizzie and I, had never even heard about them, but we went along and did it, and it was amazing. Um, and it had a point where you think you're getting through the room, you're getting like the last thing's just going to be in this wardrobe. We've got a key to this wardrobe, should be fine. As soon as we unlock that, maybe there's a puzzle box in there or something, but we're pretty much done. And then we open up the wardrobe, and fucking Narnia style, the back of the wardrobe's missing, and there's a whole other apartment on the other side, and we're like, holy shit! And we climb through there, and we're in another apartment, and there's more stuff in this side, and there was like a cage with like a what do they call those contraptions? Like a Rube Goldberg design contraption with like some golf clubs and some golf putters and balls, and you have to put underneath the cage into the Rube Goldberg machine so that it click 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 and gives you the next thing out. And it was epic and amazing. And I don't imagine a escape room is gonna beat that these days. But anyway, we're moving on. We were talking about Nemesis. Nemesis is a board game that is based on Alien. It's not Alien in name or anything. They don't talk about Alien. I don't think it's an official Alien game, but it's very Alien-like. You basically start on a spaceship in the center square where your cryofreeze has worn off, and you're like waking up in the cryofreeze unit, and there's a dead body in the room with you, and there's aliens on board your ship, and you're like, oh shit, and all the power's gone out, and all of the rooms are hexagons that are upside down. So you have to explore the ship and discover where all of the you have to explore the ship and discover where all of the rooms are. Everybody has their own objective, which could be to dick over the rest of you. So it's kind of semi-cooperative, but could be some competitive nature in there as well. The engines are either working or not working, and you have to check them in order to see if they're working. Also, then you have to go up to the front, so you have to go to the back of the ship to check the engines. You have to go to the front of the ship to see if the coordinates are actually going to Earth or not, because you have to change them if not, blah, blah, blah. It's a good game, but it's very difficult. And the whole time, obviously, you're making noise, and the more noise you make, the more monsters, the more aliens you face, and you end up running out of bullets and killing monsters and getting babies put inside you and stuff. It's nasty. So when I went around to Dags the other day, he was like, I noticed on his board game shelf just a shit ton of these Nemesis expansions and things, and he goes, have you played Nemesis Lockdown? And I was like, no. And he goes, that's set on Mars in like a colony rather than on a spaceship. I was like, oh, cool, let's play. So we played it, and only like half hour in was I like, oh, that's right, I fucking hate this game. It's so hard. And I'm constantly raging when I'm playing it because I'm like, give me some more fucking bullets. How am I meant to fight the fucking queen? Because it's a randomized element. Every time a monster arrives, you put your hand into a bag full of tokens and you draw out which of the monsters you're going to face. And one of the tokens is the queen. So it could be that you just happen to get really bad luck, like we did when we were playing the other day, and just happen to draw out the queen on the first fucking alien that you face on the board. And there's no way we're doing that. I don't even have a starting weapon as my shitty character because all of the characters have their own unique abilities with their own starting weapons and things. Because we're playing an expansion, I was like, I want to play one of the expansion characters that I haven't played yet, which was a bad idea because I ended up drawing a class called Survivor. I was like, oh, I'm playing the Survivor. That sounds useful. I bet she's got useful abilities for surviving. Nope, she didn't have shit. She must have been one of the hard mode characters that you can choose if you want to play the game even harder because she didn't start with any equipment and she didn't get any useful abilities. She had one useful ability called Vents, where you can go from any room to any other room as long as the room has been explored on both sides. And by doing so, you get an automatic strike from one of the aliens, which can give you a serious wound immediately, and 3 serious wounds kills you. So I was like, there's a small chance that when you use your one unique ability that you have as this character, you just get a serious wound, which gives you a third of the way to death. Great. So I was very raging about that game, but it was very fun. It was very fun all the same. Um, we all lost. We definitely all died by the end of the game. It's one of those games like Pandemic where it's just the board game itself is out to get you. And then another game, another of the days that I went round to Dag's house, it was for dinner, and Dag, it was for dinner and a podcast, no less. Dag ran a podcast for me and cooked a 3 course meal. Dag is very big on food. For those who don't know, he's very big on his culinary cuisine. Getting babies put inside you is nasty. And so Dag made this D&D related, D&D themed 3 course meal. Um, I'm not sure if he's put the photos on his Instagram or anything yet. He might not have yet, but if he hasn't yet, I'm sure he will, especially when this podcast goes live. But he recorded an episode of this thing where we talked about the past of D&D TTRPGs during the first course, the salad course. Then we talked about the present day of D&D and TTRPGs during the mains course, and then we talked about the future of D&D and TTRPGs during the dessert course. And it was a really cool little structure. Just a half an hour chat or so during each course. Um, the first course was like the 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 grasping vines of something or other, he called it, I think, and it was like rice noodles with some like pomegranate, um, like poppable pomegranate juice seeds. I'm not fucking sure what they were, but it was delicious. All sorts of like little salads and stuff. And then his main course was Red Dragon Tail, I think he called it, which was absolutely delicious. It was crocodile. It was my first time eating crocodile, and I would eat crocodile again, especially the way that Dag cooked it. It was very nice, but apparently it's quite rare to get these days. He was telling me that crocodile used to be relatively common to get in Australia, but the younger meat is nicer. But then a lot of the crocodile farms got bought out for leather instead of meat, and the older crocodile leather is better. I may be getting those two mixed up, but one way or another, they don't kill the kids for meat anymore because they allow them to get to adults for the leather, and so it's quite hard to get a hold of crocodile meat these days apparently. But he had some for some reason, and it was very tasty. It was it was sort of the consistency and toughness of pork, but with the taste of chicken. Yeah, and they had crocodile pie, but it was very disappointing. That's a shame. Not a common meat stall and hard to get. Yeah, that's what he told me. But it was delicious. Then for dessert we had what did he call it? Gelatinous cube something or other, and it was like a meringue square uh, with whipped cream inside and gold leaf and some fresh fruits or something on it, and it was delicious as well. I also, since being here as well, talking about food, I also have tried kangaroo for the first time as well. So lots of firsts this trip. Um, I tried kangaroo in sausage form, I wouldn't be able to pick it out of a lineup because it was spiced sausage, so it could have been fucking any meat. Like sausage is not a good way of being like, oh, that's a particular meat that I like. Because sausage is sausage, especially with all the spices and shit that they put in it. But the sausages were delicious. I ate crocodile in Florida a lot, but I was too chicken to try it. Should definitely try it. Crocodile tail it was. How was the kangaroo? It was good. Yeah. Pass on that too. Not a fan of meat or not a fan of weird meats or kangaroo is nice but very lean, so you have to cook it well or it's dry and yuck. That's what we discovered. Yes, we did. We cooked up the kangaroo sausage and there was like this plasticky kind of a smell left behind. And it's apparently because it's so lean that there's just very little fat on it, and so it doesn't like moisturize. It isn't moisturize. It um doesn't what's marinate doesn't marinate itself with its own fats like a lot of meats do, and so it gives this kind of weird overburned taste texture to it if you cook it too long. Not interested in game. That's fair enough. Love all the weird meats. Would totally try them all at least once. Yeah, same. Ruth. Now that I'm no longer vegetarian, I would definitely go back to my original plan when I was a kid of being like, I want to try everything once. I was talking with Wooden Forge about that at dinner the other day actually, and it was he said, so what would your last meal be? What would you ask for your last meal if you're on death row? And my first answer was, how am I being killed on death row? And he was like, why does that matter? And I was like, because if it's the electric chair rather than lethal injection, then my last meal would be an entire bag of unpopped corn kernels. And he goes, what? And then he realized and was like, oh, you want to go out with a bang? And I was like, yep. If, I, if I'm being electrocuted, I want the people watching to be like, popcorn. Um, and then he goes, all right, let's say you're being killed by a lethal injection. Then I was like, okay, then I don't give a shit. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm gonna die tomorrow. Whatever the fuck I'm gonna eat doesn't matter. And AJ, who was with us, was like, she put it totally nice. AJ, who was with us, she goes, but the process of enjoying the food is what's enjoyable. I was like, it's not going to be, does not matter how enjoyable the food is. It is not going to be an enjoyable experience knowing that it's the last thing I'm ever going to eat before I die. And she's like, ah, yeah, I suppose because I eat for comfort and you eat for practicality or something. And I was like, yep, I I could survive for weeks on bloody nutrient slop if I had to. Like I eat because I have to eat because my body needs things. I enjoy food. I don't enjoy making food. I don't enjoy thinking about food. I barely enjoy ordering food. Like if I'm sitting at a restaurant and I'm hungry and somebody brings me food, I'm like, yum, I'll have this food and like it. But it's not a thing. It's not a comfort for me. I don't think about like what would be the best meal to have as the last meal. It's just not who I am. Past the age of coming to terms with eating animals other than the ones I'm programming to accept. Dumb, but you know, brains. Yep, that's how it goes. I'm thinking about food right now. Some people do, and that's fine. I'm glad that some people have a passion for food. Otherwise, they wouldn't be restaurants, and then I wouldn't be able to just order food that I want. Um, but yeah, I was like, I don't. It doesn't matter what my last food is. I'd probably ask for something unique that I hadn't eaten yet, just to check it off my list, just so I can be like, there's one less thing for me to miss out on after I'm dead, like turtle or something. I've never eaten turtle, so I'd probably ask for turtle or something. You've picked the two Australian animals that I've eaten. I'd had hard to try quokka or koala. Yeah, harder but not impossible. That's why I've got to come back to Australia. Got to eat some quokka. Nearing lunchtime, I'm getting hungry. I actually skipped over lunch. Surprise, surprise to no one. And it's getting late here, so I probably should sign off soon and go and actually find some food. Nearing lunchtime, I'm getting hungry. I really want deep fried mozzarella. Yum. With a garlic dip. Yum. That's just me getting hungry. The Off Menu podcast has people like you on it sometimes. Gamble and Acaster don't really get it. Is that right? Turtle is hard to get. That might delay the execution. That's the other question answer I gave Myth. I was like, the real answer would be to be like, oh, I want my grandma's chicken salad, but it has to be grandma's chicken salad, nobody else's. And they're like, what's your grandma's recipe? And I was like, no, 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 it has to be my grandma's, not my grandma's recipe. It has to be my grandma making the chicken salad. And they're like, where does your grandma live? And I'm like, she's dead. Good luck getting me my final meal. But as for an endangered animal, they would have to source it, which is difficult, so I don't die tomorrow. It gives me time to escape. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. Something you're allowed to eat wombat, but couldn't be that hard to get some some as roadkill or Tasmanian devil. Head turtle in China. Oh, a gyro, a gyro. That's probably what I'd go for. Last meal. Fucking get me the. I bet if I think about it, I could actually remember the name of the restaurant we went to in Greece. We went to Brejaladica or something. It was something like Brejaladica. Weird how that's still in there from like 2014. Brejaladica? It was something like Brejaladica, and it was a gyro restaurant in Greece that we went to that was just probably some of the best food I've ever had. Also, also a lot of the pizzas that I had in Rome, delicious. Yum. Everyone starts skipping meals, man. She's having too extra curfew. Gyro is gyro. 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 Okay, if you say so. I think in a bunch of places, anything you want last meal comes with an asterisk of easily obtainable by the jail kitchen. Yeah, yeah, I've heard that before. All right, you've ruined this for yourself because now I have to turn the stream off and go get some food because we've talked about food for too long that now I have to get food because my stomach's like, hey, we haven't eaten. And you've only got yourselves to blame. You've gone and done this to yourself, haven't you? Let me just quickly check my schedule to see if it's my schedule, my calendar to see if there was anything else that I've done that's really cool that I could tell you about. Bum, 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 bim, bum, bum, bum. City Romp. That's fun. Doing all sorts of cool stuff. There's some other cool stuff as well, but that can wait. That's fine. My dinner's calling to me. Yeah, that's fair enough. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me, everybody, and in particular, thank you very much for being my cool patrons on Patreon. I really appreciate the support. I really appreciate you hanging out with me on Patreon and giving your hard-earned money to me every month because it's a little bit more reliable than other income sources for me. So I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you enjoy the perks that you get on Patreon. Don't forget that you can suggest other things to me if you want. If you like, if you think of ideas that you want for Patreons, and you're like, oh, I think that'd be cool to be able to have once a month or whatever. I'm open to it. You can always message my mods and they'll pass the message along to me, or you can put it in the Discord suggestions channel, or you can put it on Patreon and just be like, hey, it'd be nice to get this or that or whatever. There's no guarantees that I'll be able to do it because of time and return on investment for certain projects and things, but I'm always open to hearing ideas for new things. Thanks for being cool people. Thank you to my mods for being cool people too. And I will leave the stream there. There's no one to raid because it's a private stream. I will see you again in about a month when we do a May charisma check. Bye.